And I don't think anybody's ever done it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure nobody ever has. And I doubt any, I don't know how many people have ever done this period. We got to figure out how to get this section off of the Solstice Coupe. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rebuild It. Finally, we are starting on the work on the Solstice Coupe. It's been months and months since we bought the car. It's been sitting out there while we did these other three. And so I've got this week with me inside the shop, the chunk. And if you'll remember, we did this on probably our, second or third project we ever did on this channel a couple years ago, where we replaced one of these quarter panels on that black Solstice. And this one's going to be quite a bit different because we've got to figure out on the coupe how all that comes apart. We got to get the roof off of it, and the back glass area, all that has to come off before we can figure out how to even get the quarter panel out. So I went back and looked at a lot of our old video footage from when we got this off last time. The way these things are put on at the factory is there is panel bond. You can see the end of it right here, where they cut it off at the salvage yard. But that panel bond goes along the seam all the way up to there, and then there's a bunch of it gobbed on under here. And then this corner goes around and then turns this way. And there's more back up in here that you cannot get to with heat. You can get to it on this side. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but you can see the panel bond sticking out right there. So we can heat it up from in here a little bit. And then the rest of this, like there's some here, if we want to take this bracket off with it, or we've got spot welds along this we can cut out if we just don't want to use that bracket. And then we've got spot welds here, and then all along here. It can be drilled out, which is no big deal. The problem we had last time was, first of all, I didn't know how it all went together, so it was a lot of trial and error. But as you're getting all this panel bond off, also we have it all along this line here too, is panel bond. As you're trying to heat this up, I mean, of course, you're having to use a torch is the only way to do it, and it ruins the paint. So once we get it, off, we can sand all the paint off and get down to bare metal. But you have to heat it up to, I think it's 400 degrees before the panel bond releases, and you cannot get it so hot that it warps the metal. And last time, when I was trying to figure out where all this panel bond was, I would heat it up and I try to pull, and I ended up kinking it all through here. Like it just was a big old messed up, dented up mess by the time I got it off. And so I ended up having to, my damage on the other one was way up here around the gas cap on the other side. So I ended up having to cut it through here on both cars and just throwing away this part down here because it was all bent up so much from trying to get it off. So I'm going to try to avoid that this time and get it all off in one big chunk. If you don't remember the first episode of when we got the coupe, Andy's going to put a link up here on the top right corner. Just click that and you can watch the first episode since it's been so many months. Okay, I started to, I heated up this part down here and released it. And then I realized I think it's going to be easier when I put it on the other car to just use the bracket from the other car. It'll help line it up easier. So I went ahead and drilled these out. So all the spot levels are now drilled out. So everything I got left is trying to get the panel bond to release. So I'll start down here, heat that up, and remember it's gonna just destroy the paint. So we'll just heat it up as fast as we can and get it to release, pop loose, and then we'll come over on this other side and start on the long one. Okay, I think I have all this panel bond released. Feels like it's loose. There's one issue. There's a weld back up in here. So I'm just gonna take a grinder and grind this piece off right here that's on the old car that I don't need. And then when we get to it, we'll drill out the weld from the back side. But one thing I found out was, I think anyway, is that the paint bubbles about the same time that the bond releases. So if you're using your torch, you just go through there. You can kind of like pull up in one spot, and then when that paint starts to bubble, it just kind of pulls away. So if you could go through and make sure all the paint's bubbled along that seam, then it starts to go. And then there's some hidden up underneath here, which I forgot about. I went back and looked at my video again. And another thing I wondered about was that I thought, well, if you let it cool down, that panel bond might re-grab it, but it does not. At least I haven't found that it does. So once you release it, it's released. So you don't have to worry about it sticking back on. There's a whole bunch of it up in this area. And so that takes a lot of heat right there. Get that loose and it pops. There it is. Woo-hoo. Did not bend anything up. Okay, so it was all along this side where the metal bent down in there. So and there's where I had to cut it. And then you got this giant blob right up here. And then just a couple blobs in certain spots. I don't know that I saw that one. I think that one just happened to let go because I don't think I heated that. I did see this one because you could see it from the outside. So anyway, this big chunk, we can get it out of the shop and haul it to the salvage yard. I do want to take the tie rod end off down there because ours was bent. I might need to use part of that. All right, so now that I finally got this bad boy off of the chunk without destroying it, it's time to finally get the coupe in the shop. All right, so now that we've got this thing in the shop, and it's been so long since we looked at it, you guys, some of you went back and watched the episode 1 of this thing. Hopefully everybody's seen it. But for those of you who haven't, we'll do a quick walk around and just kind of show you the damage. If you remember from when it came in on the transport, this wheel right here was turned all the way in this way. So the damage we've got was going like all the way down through here, and the knuckle was broken and the thing was turned all the way in. Like in episode 1, I got a new knuckle and replaced that well enough for us to drive it around. It's still not adjusted right, so it needs to be all taken in and having aligned and all that. But we did figure out what caused the damage, because when we opened up the back glass, this was in there. And good old Paul, our buddy Paul, a linesman for electric company, and he knew exactly what this was: a solid fuse barrel for a disconnect switch on an overhead electrical line. I asked Paul if this could possibly fall off of a pole if somebody hit it hard enough, and he said yes. So somebody slammed into a pole sideways, this thing, knocking this off, and then whoever put this car on a transport said, let's not lay on the ground and threw it in the back with it. So when it did that, it also must have either slid sideways into something over here, or this was the part that rammed it sideways. Well, we've got a crease going like this on this door, and then just kind of a glancing blow right here on the hood. And I think that was it, wasn't it?
No, well, also back right here, the coupe is kind of pulled off of the actual car. You can see it kind of.
Well, that's because of this.
Yeah.
So that pushed in, made our seam bust up open here. And so our big thing that we have to try to figure out is, and I don't think anybody's ever done it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure nobody ever has. And I doubt any, I don't know how many people have ever done this period. We got to figure out how to get this section off of the Solstice Coupe. We got to get this bumper off for sure. We got to get this whole section here off, tail light off. And I guess the first thing to do would be to start trying to uninstall all the panels inside, because that might show us how the stuff is connected. This should be interesting. It should be something that nobody's seen before, so I'm excited to do it. I hope we don't break anything in the process, because none of this is replaceable.
You were just talking about how oddly shaped this trunk is, because you have this normally in hatchback cars, you've got this flat part right here. Well, then this also goes down in here like this, and it's not very big. I mean, that's the whole length of that little dip down there, but it's like 6 inches deep, so just an odd shape.
And it's because this whole thing, they were designed to be a convertible. So this coupe was a different, it's a thought, was added on later. So here's what it looks like without all the carpet in there. Probably not many people have ever seen this. That must be where the fuel pump is, I would guess. So I see no damage at all in here. So whatever was done out there did not transfer over. Yeah, I see a little bit of a, right there, see that? So hopefully that's not so bad on the outside that we can't get it pulled out. Looks like the next thing we got to do is figure out how to get this stuff right here off. We got the first piece off right here with no broken clips. Like I said earlier, remember, we cannot break anything that we can't repair, because none of this, you cannot buy any of this stuff. We've got this piece right here that needs to come off. And we should be able to see a little better this time than we're doing it blind. We got clips here and here. Back here. Right. There's 2, 3, 4. No broken clips.
If there are any clip or pry tool removal companies that want to sponsor us, that would be great. We use your stuff all day, every day.
All right, so check this out, guys. Pull up this gasket, and there is no seam. And I don't know if you can tell from the camera good enough, but this goes like from the top around. There's no seam all the way around. So you have to think of that might be all fiberglass. And so when you look at Solstice, see right here, that's metal, not metal. So this whole little back thing that they made to make this a coupe is fiberglass, or something like fiberglass, not metal. So before we do any more crazy stuff on the inside here, I think we need to figure out how to get these taillights out, because you know they made it to where you can change bulbs in the taillights. So if we get those out, we'll be able to see some more seams up underneath here. Maybe there's bolts under here, so maybe there's 2 bolts up or 4 up there and 4 more up under here, and we can just unbolt it and take the whole thing off. That would be like awesome if that's really the way it is. So the first thing we're going to do to try to get these taillights is we're going to take the back tires off and remove this inner fender liner back here, and that'll allow us to get the bolt to access to the bolts that holds the bumper on. And I think you go up through that to get the taillights anyway. So if we can't get the taillights there, we might go ahead and just take the bumper off, because that's got to come off anyway. There is a bolt right here. I think this might be an access panel, this whole thing. Let's take that out and see if this little panel comes off. Alright, so I don't know if you can see way up in there, Andrew.
Yep.
Can you see the bottom of that tail light?
Yep.
These things right here.
Oh. Heyo.
Let's unhook this. Pull up the red tab. Squeeze in. And there's the Priceless, non-replaceable taillight.
With the tab that you just broke.
Nah,
Just kidding.
So you can see how they are. The 2 things I just took off went right under here, and then this tab right here that this right here just slides into. So you put it in there like this, and it goes sideways to get locked up in there.
I see 2 bolts right here that are holding on something.
Oh yeah, that's it, Andrew. And see, this is just nothing but a seal. So
Yeah, this is the same seal that you can see from inside the. Right there.
Let's put the tire back on over here. Go ahead and take the bumper off, because we got to get it off to get the fender off over there anyway. So let's go ahead and take the rest of the bolts and stuff for the bumper off under here, and we'll put the tire back on, get it back down, and do the same thing on the other side. Got the tail light off, and it was undamaged.
Lucked out, and I thought this piece up here was cracked, but it's not. At least not all the way through. So that's something we can hot staple if we absolutely need to, and it'll work out perfectly.
All right, so we just popped this piece out. It's held in by all these clips.
And those 2 screws.
So now we've got a whole bunch of little 7mm bolts across here holding the top of the bumper on. I mean, I'm talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think. 8 or 9 of them. So all those have to actually.
They're down in here, like this side. Yeah, like there's one right there.
All right, and there's one plug right here.
For the whole thing, there's one plug.
Right here, see that? Plug comes off of this. And they're in all the lights. Okay, so if you look over here, you've got bolts holding this bracket to the main tub. You got bolts holding the bracket for the coupe to this bracket, and then you've got a bolt holding the coupe lid to
that bracket.
So
seems like a different shaped bracket could have solved them a lot of hardware differences there.
So I don't want to move any of this stuff any more than we have to, and it looks like if we just take this one nut off here and over here, then that'll keep us from, when we put it on back, we won't have any adjusting to do this way. But the bolt on here is like up down behind that. We have to take this off to get it, so I'm going to take these two bolts off here, or nuts off here,
and then this one right here, and then one on the other side.
Yeah, we know we got to take those off, so let's go ahead and get up there and take off the Targa top, I guess you call it Targa top. And see if there's any bolts back up here in this seam, back up in there, if we can see anything.
So it's pretty easy to take off. It's similar to the convertible. There's a little pull down lever here, one on the other side, and then there's one in the middle here in the back that you push up and it pops down and releases it and you just lift it off.
We're gonna have to take this piece right here off, which popped right up in the back with clips. So hopefully it just snaps in. And then I think the secret to getting to whatever's holding this to the body is probably under this panel here. So hopefully we can get this thing off without breaking anything. And then this. So we got this piece out right here, which is all just clipped straight down, just needs to pull up firmly. Nothing broke.
Very firmly.
And so now this piece right here is on top of these side pieces that we need to get out. So this piece needs to come out too. So we removed all this piece up here, which came off pretty easy. There's no broken tabs or anything, it just popped straight down. And then that allowed me to pull this out. And so here's our two bolts. We got this big honking one right here, and then one coming from the below up, which means we might have to take this piece off. And we can't take that piece off without opening the door.
And why can't we open the door, Father?
Because the door is smashed. Never been opened.
Yeah, so we haven't been able to get into that side since we've had the car because of the whole telephone pole there.
I've never tried. Hey, it opens. This gasket right here will have to come off with the top. There's like a little clip right there, whatever you call it, push pin. And then this is just sits there, so it's not glued, I don't think. This thing comes off, which is really easy, and this thing has to pop out, but they're kind of hard to get out without breaking stuff. And then there's a speaker right here, so there's one wire going into the speaker. You have to take these panels off to get this out, and if you guys remember, just watch the T2 videos. We had to take all this off to replace the cup holder, which, interesting enough, these coupes do not have the cup holder here. They're used this section back here for hold your cups.
So instead of slightly reaching behind, you have to reach completely behind your person you're sitting next to's head to get a drink.
Right.
Which is why the drink is in the entire back part of the coupe on this.
So when this thing was wrecked, I mean, look, there's just soda all over the carpet, all the leather. It's all over the back. It's like pooled up in the very back. I mean, it must have been like a super mega gulp. Like
all 56 ounces are dried in the back of this car.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this off because I know I have to get it off, get that
like a professional
piece.
It's like you've done that like 9 times.
Yeah. You don't want to break, like this thing is 2-piece. I've taken it off before and this piece separates from this one. This is all glued on there. There's the speaker wire. Okay. That's the only wire going to it. No broken tabs.
Voila.
So that's that corner piece. So to continue getting this thing off, we've got 2 more plugs that have to come out. This is for the Sirius XM or whatever the radio is. There's just a tab right on the top that you just push down and this pulls out. And this is for, I think that shows whether the hatch is open or not. So that's the only don't think we have any other wires going to it. We already did the ones to the latch.
Yeah, everything else should come off just as one big piece.
So I gotta get that plastic piece off up there, and then we gotta figure out how to mark this, and then we'll unbolt it and lift it off. To get this bottom piece of rubber off the car, once you remove all this plastic, you'll see this little piece sticking out here. That's the back side of one of those push pins. So I'm just gonna push it back through like that. Like that. And then there's this little glue back there, or sticky stuff. Release it, and then there's one more push pin out here on the outside edge. So that releases all that, so that should just come off now. All right, I think we have everything unbolted. So possibly for the first time on YouTube, this is somebody taking off a Solstice Coupe top.
Without further ado.
There it goes. It's not that heavy.
Nope, it's not light, but it's not heavy. Now what we gotta do, all right, think with me here for a second. We cut off the back of the car, we weld on an El Camino trunk, or bed, and we have the first ever Solstamino.
So let's look over here at this damage area. Now the next step is the same thing we just did on the chunk. So I'm gonna have to go back through and spot weld, or drill out all these spot welds all the way around. We're gonna leave this bracket like we talked about on the chunk, and then it's paneled on down here, and then this whole big thing right here is paneled on, and I have to do it with a torch, you know, really close to all this stuff that you don't want to burn. So it's gonna be a little dicey, but this seal is a totally different animal made for this coupe. That wasn't on the other one, but I can pull it out and get it out of the way so it doesn't get hot. So very interesting. All right, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Rebuild It. This was one I've been looking forward to for quite a while. How about you?
Since May, yeah.
Yeah.
We got this car, and then we had the opportunity to do two cars that you always wanted to do, the Crossfire and the T2. And so this one just fell to the back burner because it was going to be the most significant project, right? It was going to take the longest. And so now we get to start on this thing, and I mean, we got a ton done in this video.
Yeah, just on this video. So the next one, we'll be doing a lot of the stuff that we did on the first part of this one, as far as that fender goes, getting all this off, and then really checking out that damage up underneath. And we got an ace in the hole. If there is a lot of damage back there, we still have the chunk out there, so we can rob parts off of that, you know, that are welded on, and we'll see what that's like when we get this off on the next episode. So thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up below, and make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you on the next one.
And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.